Hello and welcome back to T1D Life and Travel. Today my focus is on supplies. Getting everything in place, well, a plan in place for everything you're going to need for packing, for going on this gap year for potentially a full year. Some people go for 3 months, 8 months, a year. Depending on what your requirements are, it's definitely good to plan in advance no matter how long that's going to be. So step one will be speaking to your healthcare provider. So this is what we did, and we let them know that it's going to be a full 12 months that we were planning for, and they were very good to help with planning the supplies and getting some things in place. So first of all, the recommendation is to take 1.5 times the amount of insulin you need. So have a look at the daily requirements that you're currently using of insulin, multiply it up by the number of days of travel. Remember to include the days on the flights and any local travel as well. And then once you've got that amount of insulin calculated, multiply by 1.5 just to ensure that you've got enough insulin in case of spoiling, in case of breakages and spills and things like that. It's better to have too much than not enough. The next thing we did was actually look at what supplies were available within the countries of the top 3 choices that our daughter had made. So not everyone gets given their first choice, so we had to look and see what else would be the backup plan. So in Ghana was her first choice, and in Ghana the Nova Rapid that she uses, for example, is available. It's costing around about 125, 115 to 225 pounds at the time we were looking at it, and obviously the idea of the requirement of a prescription could have been necessary. So the project, the charity actually that she was going with, they would have to assist in making sure that all that was in place. But we wanted to make sure to check and see if everything, what was possible. We wanted to have that peace of mind at the early planning stages just to see what was going to happen. And so the next thing was the pump that she uses. We contacted the pump supplier and spoke to them about what the plans were for travelling, and thankfully the company that we use actually provides a spare pump for travelling. So definitely if you use a pump, go and get in touch with the supplier of the kit that you get for all the pump supplies and see if they've got a similar thing in place. So the procedure that we had was that they supply a pump, the pump stays in a sealed container for travelling. The packaging is great. It's not really big and bulky like when you get your very first pump and all the booklets and all the information. It's in a little plastic box which is waterproof. It was all very well sealed, and it stays in this neat little package the whole time that you're travelling, and only if you are needing to use it you would contact them. They would say yes, go ahead and use it, and then you open up the box at that point in time. So for packing, it didn't take up too much space, and for peace of mind, my goodness, that is definitely something that you want to have if it's a possibility. The next thing we did was we got extra pens, so if the pump ever had a problem and she never managed to get in touch with the company, or there was a time delay, she had that instant backup of the pens, which is something that we always have at home as well. So that was the first thing she ever used, was pens before she went on the pump. She still has her original ones, and we also arranged to have a second set of pens for the background and for the bolusing. And so we had to make sure, obviously, that we had the cartridges to go in the pens as well as the vials for filling the pump. So it was 2 types of insulin containers that she was taking with her. There was the 10ml bottles for the pump, and there was the 3ml or 2ml, is it 2ml, 3ml cartridges that go inside the pens, and the backup pens. So that's again more, more belt and braces. It's just keeping yourself comfortable to know that enough equipment is there should there be an emergency. You know yourself, like when you're planning for things, and you want to know that you've got enough of everything, and should the worst happen, it's not going to be a big medical emergency. You've got things there on hand that you can use. The next thing, we looked at were the blood testing kit. So first of all, the meter that was in use at the moment was one which was charged by USB. But luckily enough, we had an older meter which runs on battery. So if there was ever any power problems or anything like that, then the battery backup would be a really good idea. So two types of meters required two different types of strips. And so all of the strips that were needed for each of the two different meters were ordered, and we packed them as well. It's quite difficult to calculate how many strips you're going to need, but just have, in the meantime, while you're in the planning stages, look at how many strips you're using in a typical month, multiply it up with how long you're going to actually be there, and then 1.5 is what we use for everything. So the amount of insulin on a daily use, we multiply that up by the number of days, and by 1.5 the amount of strips she was using. We took extra boxes for that as well, multiplied that up, and like I say, the two different styles of meters and also spare batteries, we decided that was a very good idea, because you don't know what supply is there. No? In the countries that you're going to, if you've never been there before, you don't actually know what supplies are going to be available. So extra batteries was definitely on the list and was taken as well. So that is the blood pressure, the blood pricking, the insulin pens, the insulin pump, and CGMs. So the next thing, we are very lucky that our daughter uses a CGM, and because they come on a routine of a 3-month supply, we discussed this straight away with the medical team and saying, like, it's going to be a full year that she's travelling for. So that was a much more difficult thing to organise, because they don't supply a full year in advance anymore. In the UK, they just do 6 months. So we had to consider that and see what our options were. So please, I really do recommend that you speak to your medical team and make sure you know exactly what you can get planned in advance, what is available, how you feel about that, and what you're going to do if you don't have a full supply for the full time of the gap year. So anyway, that's some things to think about. I really hope that's helped, especially having the backup pump. We didn't know about that initially, and so that was really good find for us, and definitely good peace of mind. So good luck. I hope that you manage to get everything calculated, everything available that you need, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.